Yeah, it wasn't clickbait. We're really going to show you 6 ways to say no, and we're going to do it using dogs as an example. Actually, we've already identified 15 ways to say no, but you're only getting 6 right now. Come on, don't be greedy. But do subscribe if you'd like to see more ways to say no in the next video. So, saying no like a dog? You may be wondering, why? It's a fair question. Human communication is a really weird game. Saying something is like throwing a ball, but the ball you think you're throwing and the ball the other person catches, well, they may very well be different. There's much more to effective communication than verbal content alone. And so, advice about how to communicate with somebody should start from the reality of how we communicate. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. This video is all about how to say no, but rather than focusing on the specific words, we're going to focus on the action as a whole. Looking at dogs is a good way to demonstrate this, because even though a dog has exactly 0 words it can use to say no, it has a lot of ways to communicate the idea. Maybe the reason we love dogs so much is that they don't overcomplicate things. They have the ability to show us where they stand without getting lost in words and concepts. When you look at the person that loves you, you probably see an identity, judgments, ideas, memories, hopes, and fears. You see your overthinking self reflected back. When you look at a dog that loves you, you just see love. Mostly. So although it might sound a little silly to learn about communication from a dog, you'll soon see that it's not as silly as it looks. Hopefully. In this video, we're going to look at how to say no with 3 different types of social move: aggression, influence, and fortification. When making any social move, it's important to ask yourself the following questions. What resources do I have? Why am I acting? And given the resources that I have, how can I achieve the outcome that I want? We covered these in the last video in kind of a vague way, but now you're going to see why they matter as we look at how to say a hard no. The bite is about the hardest no there is. This move is for when you feel that a line has been crossed even by asking the question. This is a no to the request, a no to future requests, and a no to the person that asked. Unsurprisingly, this is a move of aggression. The point of this move is to make the other person feel that they've crossed a line. That means triggering a fear response by showing that you can hurt them. For dogs, this means a bite. For people, it could take many different forms depending on the situation. An insult, a rebuke, an act of social exclusion, or even physical self-defense. To do this effectively, you need to be able to summon what we might call functional anger. That means releasing anger in a clear display of intent, but without being overtaken by emotion to the point of vulnerability and uncontrolled action. The bite completely breaks rapport, so it's more likely to be used on a person who you're not expecting to have further communication with. Use with caution. The nip, like the bite, is intended to make somebody regret having asked and deter them from asking again. The nip is another move of aggression, but whereas the bite is a clear punishment for crossing a line, the nip is somewhere between a punishment and a warning not to step any further. This move is intended to cause retreat behaviors, but not necessarily sever the relationship with the other person. So it's better suited for scenarios where a more proportional reaction is needed. But again, you do need to be willing to break rapport to be able to do this. Something that you may not find easy if you're a naturally agreeable person. The nip is about showing somebody that you can bite if you need to. The snarl. The snarl falls short of being a punishment, but is a clear no, and a warning that you will use a harder no if needed. It's meant to show you're willing to break rapport if you need to. It's a more subtle move of aggression, and in people, it's more likely to take the form of a menacing look or a few words of warning. The most important thing here is that you're genuinely prepared to take things further if you need to. The power underlying the snarl, like any no is a move of aggression, is the threat behind it. But moves of aggression aren't the only way to give a strong no. The good news is that most people have a degree of empathy and social conscience, so if you can clearly show that a request has made you feel bad, that in itself can be effective as a hard no. The yelp is an example of a move of influence, meaning that it leverages social connection to communicate the no. While the aim of the bite is to show that a request has angered you, the yelp shows that it has hurt or saddened you. The idea here is to either make the person feel empathy for your pain or to signal to others around that they should come help you. It's a different approach to the bite or the nip, but actually the intended outcome is quite similar. The asker should feel regret and at the emotional level a reluctance to ask again. The skill here is the ability to clearly communicate your vulnerability, something that may come easier to extroverts. The whine. The whine is another move of influence. This time, more targeted toward raising awareness of the wrong or immoral nature of the request. If effective in getting support from others, this may result in an indirect move of aggression, as other less vulnerable people rebuke the asker. Of course, this move does rely on your ability to portray yourself as a wronged victim, as well as on the availability of other people to come and help. The ignore is a total dismissal of the request. You just don't acknowledge it at all. The message here is that you're unaffected by and uninterested in the request. So, while there is no attempt on your part to make the other feel bad for asking, they may feel a small stab of rejection at the silence. This is a move of fortification. And for this move to be effective, it's very important that you have a certain level of stability, meaning that you really are unaffected by the request. Otherwise, you're simply suffering in silence. So those are the hard no's. Now, a lot of people struggle with hard no's, especially at short notice. You've only got to watch some TV prank shows or practical joke videos on YouTube, and it's easy to see this in action. People being asked to give up their seat for no reason, or having food taken from their plate in a restaurant. It's amazing how often people simply freeze in response to these kind of boundaries being crossed. So remember the 3 questions. You need a hard no if the answer to the question, why am I acting, is my boundaries are being crossed, and a strong social signal is needed to prevent that. What resources do I have? You'll need to be able to break the normal, comfortable flow of social interaction, whether that's with anger, vulnerability, or disinterest. How can I achieve the outcome I want? Well, for moves of influence, they rely on empathy or social conscience in the asker, while for moves of fortification, stability is essential. Neither of these things can always be relied on. So it's likely that at some points in your life, you will need to be able to show your teeth with moves of aggression, or you risk being pushed around. Human communication has many dimensions. So, in order to ensure that other people are catching the same ball that we're throwing, it's useful to think in terms of social moves. While you can't always control other people's actions, what you can do is clearly communicate your own position. That means going beyond words alone and making people feel your intent. Clear communication can solve a lot of problems in life. But remember that even when people understand your message, not everybody's willing to listen. So be sure to have some hard no's up your sleeve. Because when a bark is not enough, sometimes you need a bite. Thanks for watching. See you soon.